Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Maynard After Midnight. This is Damian Maynard, your host. Tonight, I have a guest coming on, one of our chatters and a good friend, Deciduous. So let's get him on here. Hope you all had a good day. I spoke with some people earlier out of Pennsylvania who do great things for fallen veterans and their families. And they're going to be coming on my show Tuesday to explain a little bit of what they do and to talk about a upcoming event that they have going on for Korean and Vietnam vets, that they're going to be doing a homecoming celebration for Korea and Vietnam vets. So that's going to be a very good show. And I've been speaking to these people for a little while now. They're really fantastic people, Cinders and Walt Hunsaker. And hopefully we'll be on for a while, and they can plug in and actually tell everybody what they're all about. Like I said, they're extremely good people, and I can't wait to have them on. I'm going to invite our guest to come on. So, how y'all's day going? It was a pretty decent day out here. We got some rain last night, and supposed to get some rain today, but didn't get any. It was kind of weird. I thought, considering all the wind and dark clouds we had. So we're just waiting for our guest to come on. Let's see if he shows. This should be a pretty good evening. Good evening.
Hey, are you there, man? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you tonight?
Excellent. Doing well, man. I've had a wonderful week, kind of getting off the grid and just hanging out with my daughter. She's on spring break out of school, so we've been doing all kinds of stuff around here, taking care of chickens and dogs and animals and plants, and just a little downtime from you know from the ho hum, I guess.
That's fantastic, man. That's absolutely
I
fantastic.
needed it.
I'd love to be doing something like that.
And that's the thing I felt bad about, though. I've been checking in with your conversations here and there in between when we're running out and doing stuff, and it's like, oh my gosh, we're talking about something. Especially last night when I was checking out the 46 and 2 and the chromosomes, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm to these guys right now. But we're just hanging out here now. She's playing the keyboard with some headphones on, and we were just watching a musical that she's really fascinated by called Sweeney Todd. Have you heard of that one?
Oh, yeah, I love that movie. I actually went for an audition to do a production actually
Nice, dude.
at my hometown in California, where I used to do drama there during the summers and was in several productions there. So yeah, it was much like it was when I was younger. There was a lot of younger people there, so that was their cast. They kept all the young people as cast.
Yeah, it takes me back. That's kind of like what I did when I was a lot younger. Musicals and Shakespeare and stuff, and before I moved out west and got into rock music and all that sort of thing. But there's so much great music, and it's like her interest in it inspires me because um, being in the first grade and having an interest in the musical Sweeney Todd is not necessarily considered PC.
Right? I
But
agree.
the version we watch is kind of a cabaret version with George Hearn and Patti LuPone, who did Evita. She made the role of Evita great. So it's kind of like a cabaret version. So it's not like, they're slitting throats and running around baked in blood like the movie was. And the movie was, I thought it was a great effort. And again, I'm kind of going off on Sweeney Todd, but this is just my day.
You know what? I actually really enjoyed it, and I thought Johnny Depp did a fantastic job.
Hmm.
He
No, I agree. I mean, as far as you know, the the production of it and everything, I mean, it's Burton and Depp, and you got who was playing Mrs. Lovett in that one? She played the evil. Oh man, she played the evil sorceress in Harry Potter too, and I can't remember her name, but oh,
oh
Helen
yeah,
Bonham Carter. There we go, Bonham Carter.
yes, Helen. Oh, she is awesome. Just an awesome actress, and together her and Johnny Depp just did a really really fantastic job.
No, I agree. And but anyhow, that's kind of my day, and reviewing old musicals, watching the old George Hearn edition of that from '82, and saying, "Wow, like the stage production of that with Angela Lansbury as Mrs. Lovett and George Hearn as Sweeney Todd." And it's like, man,
I've never
epic,
seen that one.
dude. If you ever watch it, if you ever can find that, and I actually could probably send you a link. I found it because I'm always searching to keep that around, especially around like fall, Halloween. I have friends over, and I'm like, "Have you seen Sweeney Todd with George Hearn and Angela Lansbury, like '82?" I mean,
Really,
shoot,
what
man, I
is
was 7
that?
years old when that came out.
Right.
That's what I told my daughter tonight. It's like I was 7 years old when this was recorded, and she's like,
Oh,
"What? You were 7?"
sorry to interrupt. The chat's asking if you have an icon you can put up because your screen is black.
Oh, my screen is black. Really?
Yes.
What the heck, man? It should have a leaf or something.
No, there is nothing there. That's what I saw when
Okay,
it first popped on, and then it like went blank.
that's weird. Uh, Shoot, man. I guess. I mean, I could go down the tech rabbit hole. Can you hear me okay and everything, guys? Or
Yeah,
I don't.
I can hear you great.
Okay. I I don't know how to make an icon come up unless it automatically does, which it should, because we've done this before and it did.
Right. You might like switch to your to no cam and then back to a cam. I think that works sometimes for me when stuff's going haywire.
Oh, okay. Let's see. I've got a window up with you right now. Let me
But
close that.
I saw you when I saw your logo when you first popped up. There you go. There's your leafy logo.
Did it go away?
Uh, yes, it did. That's weird.
Okay. Well, it's funny because yeah, I don't have any lighting or anything going on in here. Is it back now?
Hold on just a second here. Yes, it is.
Okay. Well, I'll just leave the camera on, even though it's
There it
not set up.
is.
Or,
There you go. Here, I can
is that
send
better?
it too.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
The thing
right.
is that here's my situation usually with my cam is that I don't have like a desktop computer with a desk. I have a very large television with my computer next to it, and I hook my computer up to the television. So even when if I put a webcam on top of my TV, I would have to get a desk that's equivalent to sitting in front of the television in the middle of the living room, and it's just the whole like practical arrangement of a living room. So on and on, blah blah blah.
Right.
Fascinating things in the life of living with the living room that's not set up for a desk. But anywho, on and on we go. It's great to hear you're in the theater, my friend. I
Oh,
miss
I
those days.
enjoyed the theater also. I really enjoyed it. It was different, and it was an experience in life that really set me to be what I am now. Honestly, it gave me a lot of confidence with being around people, and not that I had problems with that. I mean, I've always been a social butterfly and whatnot, but
Hmm.
just the whole being being in public, and I sing karaoke when I get the chance and whatnot. So
Oh, you're
uh,
like me. I do the same thing when I it's funny you talking about being involved in theater and stuff. And one of the things I learned in reflecting now, being a 40-year-old man, you know, um, I learned empathy through theater. I learned how to empathize through theater.
absolutely,
And at the moment, I didn't understand because it was more so of an escape from, I get to pretend to be someone else.
reality.
Yeah, I get to learn my lines, and I have and what I liked about theater was this, is that you have a set responsibility. Timing is essential. Your memory is essential. So you have a very technical, very tangible responsibility. But at the same time, there's that other factor of like, well, you have to bring life into this from, once you learn your lines, you can sit there and be like, you know,
You can
you
do
know,
all kinds of nifty things.
exactly. You can have fun with it, roll with the punches, but you have the balance of, you know, hark, what light through yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Things
Right.
like that. You want to be probably cast as Romeo, but you have to have the excitement and put yourself into a place that's not what you're necessarily feeling right now. And now that I reflect on that experience in theater, I can say, whoa, I can empathize with people in my life through doing theater because you put yourself into roles that's not necessarily you. Now you can go too far with that and
Well, and
pretend that. Mhm.
when you're on stage and you're practicing or whatever, you're in between, in between sets. You can you can use your persona however you like. I've got a lovely bunch of coconuts. Oh, oi.
Exactly.
Hey, lovely bunch of coconuts. Or, it's I did I did Alice in Wonderland and I did um Charlotte's Web. When we did Charlotte's Web, we did it all in sign language. So
Mm.
it was that was a learning experience too. So it was and what else did I do? I did Oliver, I did what else? What else? Robin Hood. I did
Nice.
Yeah, I did a lot of productions. I did several productions because it's the town I grew up in, and um, that's just what I did every summer. So,
That was one of the fond memories I have of when you do like a children-based play. You know, we did like Peter Pan. You know, so and there's like 26 productions of it. You know, and you have the school groups coming through. And this was through a community theater in East, I guess it was in Virginia, right on the border of Tennessee and Virginia, called the Paramount Center, Peter Bristol. And so you do 26 productions of it. You do 2 shows a day. And then you have the weekend shows for like the paying adults that want to see Peter Pan. But I'll never forget like getting like to show number 14. And I partied a bit too much the night before. And I was in charge of not only being a pirate, but I had to like use the rigging to make the kids fly, you know?
oh yeah, yeah.
I had the heaviest kid, and I fell asleep in the dressing room with my head on the, makeup, counter or whatever. And I heard my cue on the overhead, and I was like, oh my gosh. So I ran down, missed my cue, but I ran on the pirate ship that was in the wings and jumped off, grabbed the rope, pulled it down because I was late already. And the kid went donk, 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 donk. Never seen a kid that pale before. Scared the crap out of him, you know. And that was the only time I missed my cue that I can remember in being a stagehand / pirate in that play. But that was I don't know. It's those glory moments of just like you have a responsibility. You get to be a pirate for this amount of time. You get to entertain kids and also introduce them to theater. But then there's more serious plays like Frankenstein and like Secret Garden and Sweeney Todd and Romeo and
I,
Juliet when you
you
get
know,
more
and
lyrical.
I was really, really looking forward to doing Sweeney Todd. I thought I would really love to do it, because I mean, at the time I had all the songs down pat, and
Was there a certain role were you going for the
I
Sweeney
really
Todd
was
role?
going for Sweeney Todd. Yeah.
Nice, dude. Oh man, yeah. I mean, that's I was in Sweeney Todd, but I was Anthony. I wasn't, that was when I was younger, so I was doing the love interest. I always got cast as that. It was like in My Fair Lady, I was Freddie, like singing on the street where you live and all that crap. But now it's like, yeah, I want the meaty roles. I'd love to play Hamlet or Sweeney Todd or something with some meat on the bones instead of just like, oh, I love you, let's run away together. But I got cast as that a lot when I was younger. But
Right.
yes, the theater glory days.
Yeah, I really, but like I said, all of the cast was really young, and or all of the people that were auditioning were most of them were pretty young, like in their teens or early 20s, and
Hmm.
I was in my late 30s, so it was like they were really looking for a cast that was gonna be able to I don't know, commingle or have you, and it was just I think it was the whole age differences that that kept me from getting the part. It was just because there were just such huge age differences, and they wanted they wanted people of like age, and like a
Yeah.
90% of all of them, like when I was a kid, I was in drama, so
Mm.
oh well.
Yeah, that was one of the things too I was up against, because the roles I'd like to have had back in the day, were beyond my years as far as logistically casting. And I remember the Secret Garden musical came up, and I really wanted to be Archie because he's this tortured man who, lost his wife, and she's a ghost wandering through a house, and you have, and I had a great audition, and they were like, "Man, if you were just like 10 years older, we'd totally have given you that part." And I was like, "Oh, thanks." But ended up being the bad guy Neville, the one that does the duet with Archie, Lily's Eyes from that musical. But I don't want to go too far into like musical theater history. But
Right, right. No, but I totally understand. It really is an eye-opening experience and brings a lot to your life, honestly.
well, and I think that was the thing I really enjoyed most about it, as far as, again, developing a sense of empathy. Because if you never truly give yourself over and say, what if I were someone else in a different situation right now? And if you've never truly given yourself over to that in your mind, then how could you ever truly relate to someone? Because everyone we meet is in that situation.
Right.
You, me, I mean, anyone we ever meet, we could talk for the next 30 years every day, but I'm still not living your experience and you're not living mine.
Right. But it gives us a way to relate to other people.
And that's what I got from it that really helped me as far as understanding, like, well, where are you coming from? And I'm open, I want to hear what you have to say and what are your experiences, instead of just like, well, I am the center of the world and all that's valid is everything I've filtered. It's like, forget that. That's like two-dimensional. That's like, black and white.
Right.
I want 3D. I don't just want color. I want 3D too, 4D, 5D, 6D. Let's go all the way.
7D. Oh my God.
84D. Here we go. 84D.
Have you seen that video? I shared a video today with some people, with some of my mods, and it's a 7D rendition of freaking this whale jumping out of this gymnasium floor, and the water comes up with it, and when the whale goes down it back into the floor, it just like the water splashes everywhere. It was freaking, it's amazing.
I haven't seen that. It's called it's 7D?
It's
Did you say
7D. Yeah.
How's that possible?
It's,
Do you have glasses or something you wear when you see it?
No, absolutely not. In fact,
is it on YouTube or something?
It's a whale. Hold on, I'm going to see if I can screen share it here. I know I can pull it up. Hold on just a minute, and I'll pull it up.
It's so interesting because when we change, the fascinating thing I find that's happening now, and people have always tried to do it. We had it with the Impressionist painters. They were trying to recreate through their own eyes the world around them through pointillism, or you have Renoir and you have Monet. You have a new way to see the world through the paints that are applied with a brush to a canvas. And then we move on from that to the age of television, visual effects, and CGI. And I wonder if we're trying to replicate the very thing that we've been alienated from, because why do we copy it so much? If we were in it, would we try to represent it as much alternatively, as opposed to if we're outside of it and trying to get back to it? Are we knocking on the door of trying to get back to the now, as opposed to, you know what I mean? The expression of art. I don't know. I'm just musing here.
No, I agree. I totally agree. It's because,
and again, I watch all movies, and I don't watch cable, but Lord of the Rings for sure, and all the modern like epics. But at the same time, I'm wondering what door are we knocking on to try to replicate some sort of virtual reality, so we don't have to deal with the one we're already in? Or, I mean, I don't know. I like playing around with those ideas though, because it's
Check
Kind of.
this.
Oh, here we go.
Is it showing?
I don't see anything except you, but
No, I have to actually screen share it. Hold on.
and I've closed out the YouTube channel, so it might be showing there, but I wouldn't see it because I don't want to get feedback and the whole delay thing.
Oh, you're fine. It should show on ours too, but hold on here. Screen share. Okay. Screen share. Here we go. And I'm gonna share this with everyone just because this is.
Oh, there we go.
Got it?
There we go. I see it now. Yeah, I see your
Okay.
screen.
Can everyone see it?
Yep, I can see your cursor moving around too. I'm going to be quiet for a second.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Can everyone see that?
I just saw it, but now I see a blank screen.
I hate it when it does that. Okay, hold on. Just a minute here. Can you see it again now?
I still see a blank screen. I don't see I see a cursor. Oh, there you go. Now you're back.
Okay, you can see that?
Someone said, can you mute your mic while the video's on? Are you guys getting feedback or something? I was going to see if give them a sec to respond.
Can you see that now? Is it still playing?
I see you.
You see me? Hold on.
But again, I'm only in Google Hangouts. I'm not on YouTube. So if you have some sort of arrangement there with that, I wouldn't be able to know if it's playing.
It should be screen sharing. So, okay.
Okay, I see Incredibles 70 hologram.
Yes.
And I can see you on the YouTube page there doing it. When you maximize, it goes to black.
Oh, well, that sucks.
When you don't maximize, oh, there we go.
Okay, watch this.
Okay. What?
Is that freaking amazing or what?
Oh, I just unmuted. Yeah, no, I know. I understand what they were saying in the room now. When I talk and you're screen sharing it, it shows like leaves instead of what you're actually presenting. So I just came off on mute. But
is that amazing or what?
So how did they do that? Is that like through projection?
It's a hologram.
Dude, well, you know what that means? And that was in a high school gym?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
So if they're doing that in a high school gym and it's on YouTube in front of the populace, do you understand how easy it would be to fake either alien invasion, second coming of Christ, Krishna coming down from the sky?
Yes, the
list goes on.
Oh, nobody saw that? Oh my God, I'm gonna have to show it again. Oh darn.
I'm going to mute myself. Was it because, I'm going to ask them, was it because I was speaking and you were seeing leaves instead of the video?
It might have been because I didn't share it with everyone.
What I have is Damien and talking about some play or something. Oh, okay. Oh, wait, no, that was something else. Well, I can mute myself when you bring it up again to make sure that I'm not cutting it out.
That's cool. Okay.
I'm going to mute right now if you're going to play it again on a screen share.
I am, and I'm going to bring it up again, and I'm going to pause it, go to screen share.
And I'm going to mute right now so I don't interrupt that process.
Okay.
All right. But I'm still here.
Yep, I see you.
Here we go.
Yeah, that is just amazing, right?
Yeah, I'm off of mute now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't understand how they did that. Is it through projection or is it through like some sort of, because 7D, I don't even understand how you go from 3D to 4D to 5D to 7D all of a sudden. It's like, how is that possible in a high school gym with people sitting around? And if so, well, it was on was it that, the site you found that on, was it the one that posts the jokes a lot or the
No, that was
pranks
on
a lot?
YouTube.
Oh, okay, got you. I didn't know the source of it based on the technology behind that, because I really don't understand the technology behind that. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it's like, wow.
Yeah,
It's just amazing to me. Amazing.
for sure. Because if you go into the realm of being able to do that in front of everyone in a high school gym, well, how do we know cities are real? And which brings up a funny topic today. My daughter asked me today, how many people are on the planet, you know? And I said, well,
Really and truly. Yeah. How do you
yeah,
know?
I said, well, maybe right around 7 billion. You know, we're coming up on that. I mean, maybe I'm off. That was the first thing that came to my head, and I was like, I think it's 7 billion, right close to it. Might be 6.7 or something, but I rounded off, you know. And then she said, well, how do you know? And I said, well, you're right. I couldn't be able to tell you that. That's just what I've been told, and I don't know it's true, because the only way I could know is if I went out and started counting people. And that got me thinking all day, you know, because, yeah, how do we know how many people are on this planet? Because what are our sources for that information?
Right. And are they available sources?
We have the census, right? Okay, well, we know there's a census, but what participation do we have in that? Zero, other than they come into our door. Now, we can fly to India and see there's a lot of people there, but counting them ourselves individually, and that's when I realized how much blind trust and how much absolute blind trust we have, even with the information that comes to us. that's supposed to be vetted. But how do I know the population census is vetted? I mean, how am I going to even begin to research that? You know? How do I vet the census information coming to me, telling me how many people are on this planet? And that was such a great thing that I went through today of, her asking me that question, because I'm like, well, they say there's this many people, but there's no way I can check and tell you that's true. So I really don't know unless we start counting 1, 2, 3, and boy, oh boy, that would be quite a challenge just to cover India. There's no way for one person in a lifetime to count India, because then you got births, and then you have, oh, I've already counted you. Whoops, I messed up. Let's start over.
Exactly.
So you're counting on some sort of authoritarian, government, because I mean, again, the census isn't arranged by the citizens. No citizen group is saying, let's find out how many of us there are. No one's doing that.
And the truth is, you can tell a census taker to go the hell away.
And I did that, and they got so mad at me.
I know, right? I've done that too.
Oh my gosh.
Like, that's none of your fucking business.
I said, he was knocking on my door, and he knocked for like 3 weeks. And this was like, this is a while before I moved out where I am now, but this was like 4 years ago. He came like back, and finally I said, look, go away, because he was coming to the back like patio sliding door, and I was like, go away, man. And he's like,
this is private property. You're about to get shot.
I know. This is how we get funding here, is what he said. And I said, look, I don't want your funding, and I don't want you to be around here. Go away. And he like cursed at me, and I was like, okay, all righty. At least we know where we stand, right?
Right. That's like, go away. You're coming on my private property, and I'm going to let the dogs out. Who let the dogs out? Me.
Forget the dog, beware of owner,
Right.
Or not owner, but renter.
The dog's going to sit quietly in the kitchen while the owner shoots you.
But that was a great thing that and again, that's how my daughter's my teacher, because it's like these basic premises that she's like asking me how many people are on the earth and how do I know that? And I'm like, well, someone said it online, or there's a website that says this, and it's like, well, did you count them? No. Well, how do you know? And I was like, yes. And that's how children are our teachers,
Right.
Everything you take as real is coming from an authority, and if it's the government, forget it. I can't trust anything that comes out of the government funnel, whether it's a census, nothing, absolutely nothing. So who knows? What if there's only like 80,000 people on the planet and everything else is a hologram? I mean, how the fuck do we know?
Right. I mean, the implications of that right there are staggering.
And I'm not saying that that's true, but at the same time, I can't say the census stats on how many people are on this planet are true either, because I don't have the resources to vet them, and no one does.
Right, because if you go to them and ask them, are they really going to tell you the truth?
Yeah. And are we really going to find out how many people are in Patagonia right now? And how do we begin to do it?
Right. Or
do we set up
Brazilian jungle, or we don't really know.
Exactly. And that's the great thing about again, having kids around, is a very basic premise of like some simple fact that we take for granted. Well, of course there's 7 billion people. Well, how do you know, Dad? And I'm like, well, I don't. Because
I'm sure they don't have censuses all over the world. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
exactly.
The CIA has been doing calculations of people for a really long time, but then again, they're another government entity that you can't trust.
Yeah, and again, anything that comes through an organization that is pretty much milking the very people they're supposed to be counting, there's a motive there for whatever reason. I don't know what, I'm not pretending I know what it is, that it could be they're not telling us the truth. And that's, I don't think the government would ever tell us the truth unless the truth of what's happening pushes their agenda forward. Whether it's how many people are on the planet or if the sky is blue. And again, if I got a letter from the government saying the sky is blue, I would go out that very moment when I opened it and make sure it's still blue.
Right. But to me, it still wouldn't be blue. It would be purple because that's what I see.
I know, huh?
Yeah.
It changes. It's not always blue every day.
It's never blue to me. Because I don't see the blue. I see purple. Honestly.
The only thing consistent in this experience, I feel like, that I've ever had a consistency of since birth, that I remember at least, not in dreaming, is gravity. Gravity is the only consistent thing I've experienced. Everything else is kind of up in the air.
Well, I was just talking to a friend about this the other day. What if gravity isn't real? What if gravity is a made-up thing? What if we're simply stuck to the ground because of this is something difficult to maybe wrap your head around too sometimes. I mean, if I'm the one who brought it up, friend. What if
That's awesome.
Electromagnetics is what keeps us to the ground? It's not really gravity. It's all the little magnets in our body that keep us to the ground because the Earth is a big magnet.
Yeah. And we definitely know that the very basics of cardiology. We have electricity running through our hearts and our brains.
Exactly.
Without electricity. And that's the fascinating thing I find about the explosion of electricity being so reliant in an external way in our culture just over the last 100 years, at least as far as we know. And see, that's the problem of what I just talked about, the census even. Okay, so I'm going to take the history book writer's word on what happened in the Middle Ages. How do we know there was ever a Black Plague? How do we know that's true? How do I vet that?
Right.
Well, I would have to, first of all, learn probably 30 different ancient languages, claw through some,
ancient manuscripts.
Ancient manuscripts and find depictions and, translate Italian, ancient French and on and on and on, Greek. And, well, I mean, Black Plague's past Greek, but I'm just saying the level of research it would take. So how hard would it be to separate us from that research level? And also, even when we go and look at the ancient manuscripts, what was the motive of the person writing even that ancient manuscript? Right.
And what was their thought pattern behind what they wrote?
Yeah, because, okay, for instance, say I write like a notebook and I write in it, I am from the year 2016 and this is what's happening. And I talk about a bunch of unicorns trying to steal my carrots, and I have a garden, and there's a flying demon in the sky that's gonna get me, and I bury that in a cave. Okay.
Right.
And that's my story. I mean, I could go on and on with making up, how crazy we go, but okay, I bury that in a cave. And for some reason that cave, gets closed off because of a landslide, and that notebook gets preserved. 2,000 years from now, someone finds it. Ooh,
And language isn't even the same. Language is not the same at all in 2,000 years. Not even a little.
Exactly. And the idea, and that's one thing I learned about linguistics and having friends who are into that big time and just talking to them, it's like, you're never going to get the full expression of someone that speaks a different language because the nuances and all of the expressions within the language you're translating from cannot possibly be encompassed when you move it into another one, because you have to settle for the best way to explain it, but you're still not getting the nuances and
there may be a deeper meaning within the words that you're translating to. Like, I can give a most perfect example of that, and it's "Quiero estar contigo para siempre," and in Spanish it means "I want to be with you forever," or in English it means "I want to be with you forever." Okay, that's the English translation for that. But within those words, it means something so much more deep. It means that you would do anything in the world for that person. it means that you want to be there forever until death, until, you know, and not for 1 minute could you like fathom what those words mean in English. You know, there's such a deeper meaning within those words. But that's like one of my absolute favorite phrases in Spanish because of how deep it is.
And that's a great example of the nuances when you try to move one language into another and get the same feeling and understanding from the initial language it was spoken in.
Right.
Which again brings us back to Amharic and Greek. Moving that into English.
How about Sumerian? Like,
yeah, there you go.
How
Sumerian.
did they ever even like think to translate something like that? Honestly.
And there you have it. It's the calamity, the distance we have from our past, even when we have tablets where we say, "Oh, this is what they're saying." The problem is that the only way we can talk about what we think they were saying is through the filter of the language we're using right now.
Right. And I would like to know how they came to believe that that's what it says. Because, like, Sumerian, okay? Sumerian is like 8,000 years old. And they're just glyphs. They're not even glyphs. They're markings. You know, it's
that is a great point, Damien. Because one thing I always wondered about, even our connection with the ancient Egyptians, the only source of cracking the code on hieroglyphics, you know what that was, the Rosetta Stone, right?
Right.
And that's the only thing that's supposedly connected to what all that means, because they found that stone, Napoleon did, on his conquest of Egypt, found the Rosetta Stone that had Latin, I think it was Latin and Egyptian hieroglyphics, and also another language that I can't remember right now, on the stone, and that's how they deciphered hieroglyphics. But that's only one source, you know?
Right.
For cracking the code on hieroglyphics. That's why they based that whole language system called the Rosetta Stone to learn any languages. You know, that was their big, we're the Rosetta Stone, learn Spanish, learn Russian, whatever. But there's only one source for that. So how do we know from that one source, that one stone that was broken in half, that, my gosh, could you imagine if you planted that, how you could like separate everyone from the knowledge of the ancient Egyptians? Just one stone, one slab of rock, and you've separated everyone from the true meaning of hieroglyphics. And you can lead them down any road you want, you know? Now, how do we vet that? How do we vet anything we could ever study about Egyptian hieroglyphics when we know the whole thing hinges on one rock that has engravings on it? That's a hard one, you know, it's a hard one to move forward with.
Yeah. And I mean, that's fine. That's fine and dandy that they could decipher Egyptian, but but back again to like Sumerian or some of the other ancient languages that are practically indecipherable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the nuances and the whole way to take a language and say, oh, we understand what they're saying now, especially if it's a language that's no longer spoken, you don't have a verbal example of it.
Right.
All you have is written form. Then you get into, honestly, it becomes more of a mathematical thing at that point than it does anything. How do we know how Egyptians spoke the word of a picture? We don't have that anymore. We only have the Rosetta Stone, and it all hinges on that. And it's like,
right. And again, even Egyptians now don't speak the same language that they did 4,000 or 5,000 years ago. It's vastly changed.
And with that type of separation, just in the Egyptian hieroglyphic realm, my gosh, look at all the religious texts that exist in the world. Well, How easy would it be to take 100 years and set it aside and say, you know what? Let's separate the masses from this and make sure that when we do reintroduce it, that they take it in the way we want them to.
Right.
Which I feel is where we're at. And, you know, I get accused of blasphemy a lot of times just because I'm not so quick to go along with fundamentalism, you know?
Well, people have been indoctrinated to believe certain things, and within those variated doctrinations, um, is how culture forms itself. Like the difference between, say, Mormonism and Catholicism.
Yeah.
It's vastly different, and both are, I mean, they're based on books, and the same with Christianity. These are all based on books, but their indoctrination is different. So, in being indoctrinated myself, I totally understand it. But and then I came to believe that we're nothing that that it says we are.
You know, I sometimes fantasize about having some sort of not hieroglyphic, still on the Egyptian thing.
That's okay.
Hologrammic, I guess, if that's the word. I'm going to coin it now. Hologrammic option in life to say, okay, this is my experience now. What if I were to live the last 40 years as in the Middle East, and then see the output of that and see what, you know, I would have been. What if I were to live the last 40 years of my life in Tibet? What would be my viewpoint?
Right.
And
it would
then,
be vastly different.
what if I were to live the last 40 years of my life as an Aborigine in Australia? Okay. And then have all of those outcomes, if you could enter into a computer, converse to see if there's a similarity between the 5 different experiences from the major world religions or the major influences from variation. Now, there's no way to do that, but it's, you know, some may say I'm a dreamer, but I know I'm not the only one.
Right.
And the only way to know if there's a continuity, that's the only way we could ever know if there's a continuity in the spirit of what we are now, based on our outward influences on whatever influence we were raised in, whether it's Judeo-Christian, whether it's Aboriginal, whether it's, you know, Taoism or Hinduism or whatever. And but there's no way to solve that one unless we could somehow, and that's how I feel like technology could help us, if there was a way to replicate our experiences and then we can connect to it, but at the same time we could try to escape through it. And it's like any new advancement, it could be used for good or for evil. If we could somehow experience that without getting swept away by it or escaping what we are actually in now, which is the only thing we'll ever experience, is right now, and it's the only thing we've ever experienced since our birth.
Right. You can't experience the past or the future. It is the here and now that we experience.
And that's something that hit me one day, and it was when I was around Ojai with coyotes circling the hill. Is like the only place I've ever existed, or any one of us will ever exist, is right now. Even when I think about what was happening when I was 15, I'm replaying that now. I'm not 15 again, living that experience. I'm only replaying the echoes of it. If I think about what might happen in the future, if I run out of food, or if the world bursts into flames, or if a nuclear bomb goes off, or blah, 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 I'm still now thinking about what might happen, and I'm thinking about what did happen when I was 15.
Sure.
And I realized
sure, and those things never go away.
Exactly. The only place we'll ever be, the only place we can ever be, and the funny thing is that we're trapped in it, we don't even know it. The only real place you ever are is now. Even when you replay your memories of the past, they're still happening now.
Right.
And you cannot go back to your 12-year-old birthday party and say, I am here eating cake again, and I don't know what's going to happen in the future. That's gone. We can only replay the mirage of the image of it, the floating vapors that are going to trail off as we get older and older. And as we look into the future and we have no idea what might come, and it's like the amazing thing of how much importance we place on the past and the future. Not to say we can't learn lessons and obviously identify dangers, but at the same time, how much we live in it idealistically, whether it's through a religion or it's through some sort of philosophy we built up around ourselves or walls we put around our experience. I'm always trying to poke holes in that, you know.
Yeah, it's there. You know,
For
it's an
myself,
important
not for other
facet of
people.
life to try and disprove things or prove things, and
Mhm.
it's extremely important to do so. That way, we know what reality really is.
Yeah. And when we talk about reality, it's like, again, my daughter asked me that question today of like, how many people are on the planet? Well, I've been told this. How do you know that's true? I don't. What else don't you know is true? Well, pretty much anything I can't vet.
A ton
I
of
can
things.
show you gravity's true because I can pick this rock up and drop it to the ground. And if it starts floating, then gravity isn't true. But if it falls down, then gravity's true. And I
Right.
mean, that's a very big, starting point. But again, we have to vet our assumptions about everything we've been told, because as soon as we know that we can't trust the authorities in our lives, whatever that authority is,
Well, that's like
then we
saying, have we really gone to the moon?
exactly.
Are there really satellites up in the air? Are there really? Are you sure? Have you
No.
seen them up there? Because I've looked from the ISS. I've looked from the ISS um, camera. You know what? I can honestly say I've never seen a satellite.
Well, that's the thing too. I've never personally seen a satellite orbiting the Earth. I've seen lots of digital representations of that. Um, I've seen footage from an international space station. Have I ever been there? No. Does that mean I don't believe anything that I see is recorded on video? Well, that's up to me to decide. But the hard part is there's
What do you?
experience and there's the representation of experience. And if
Right,
and that's the hard line to draw on what creates our reality. And that was an amazing question again. Just how many people are on this planet? Well, there's no way for me to prove that. Now we can Google right now how many people are on Earth. Who's responsible for giving us that information? And then the big question is, do we accept this information as true, or do we discard it because we can't vet it? And
right,
that opens up a Pandora's box of like, well, I know gravity is true because I'm experiencing it right now. I'm laying in the floor. I'm not floating on the ceiling, you know? And you can go down a path of like, well, nothing's real and everything's illusion. Well, no, I mean, there are definite certain touch points on experience on what you know what is real and what isn't.
right.
But when we get into broader topics of like, what's going on in Antarctica right now? Well, we could watch a documentary on it, but who's filtered that? Who filmed it? I mean, geez, I've never
Right.
been to Antarctica. Probably never will go there. Maybe I will. Who knows? But at the same time, it shapes my worldview. It shapes my perspective about where I am and how I am. But I don't vet the source because I can't. I don't have the resources to. And it's amazing how much of that influences our perspective on everything. It's like the screens we're looking at right now. I mean, who knows whose hands were on this to create it? From China, most likely, or from Mexico. But it's in front of us, and
Have
yeah,
more than likely China. I mean,
exactly.
they're the leading technological force in the world.
Yep. And I think that as long as the mainstream politicians, and as long as the powers that be can keep us from understanding and realizing the only thing you will ever be in, the only place you'll ever be is now. And you better start loving your neighbors right now, because there's no big, pie in the sky later, and there's nothing in the past you can dig through now, that to make it better now. If you get encouragement from it, great. But the only place you'll ever be is what you can do right now. Right now. And it's like, oh, because we're gonna, get organized, and no. It's like, do it in your own life, in your own way. And if we cling to the past too tightly, we're gonna strangle any opportunity for new growth. It's like, overwatering plants, overwatering a past that's long since dead, and we got to create a new paradigm or create a new understanding of this experience.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, I think that maybe our understanding is just a little bit skewed, only because we've been indoctrinated to believe something other than the truth. Maybe. I mean, honestly, like growing up in religion really messed me up for the first part of my life.
I'm with you on that one, my friend.
And after I actually started seeing the world for what it really was, my eyes opened up, and I started actually seeing truth for what it was, and not what they were feeding me. So after I left home and all that, I mean, I started seeing it before I left home, but after I left home was when my mind really opened up to the possibilities that I've been lied to my entire life. And there's no such thing as these things they're telling me. And that it's all just one big lie.
I think that was the turning point for me as well. Moving out of East Tennessee and getting out from the very strict religious upbringing that I had. My dad was a pastor, and I grew up in the whole preacher family, and getting out of that and going into the wilderness pretty much to find a different perspective, and realizing you've been lied to. You've been led along by all these facts that aren't facts, because no one can vet them. And it doesn't mean that I'm not saying there isn't a mystery, because that's the thing I feel like that's been strangled the most, with dogmatic, concrete explanations of exactly what happens when you die, exactly how the whole universe is organized, exactly who created it, exactly what everything's going to happen. We have the whole plan. It's all done.
Yeah,
that to me
is in a nutshell. Here it is. Here's the book that tells you everything.
And again, that's why I would be considered a blasphemer, just because I celebrate the mystery. I celebrate mystics more than I would someone telling me exactly how it all is going to play out. And there's so many people lining up to do that, and they've done that since Revelation was ever written. Everyone has their interpretation. Well, this is what's going to happen. If we're going to go through a nuclear war, the world's going to explode, we're all going to die, and we're going to blah, blah, blah. You know what? In the meantime, I'm here right now. I'm still alive. I'm still coherent. And I'd rather not become some sort of self-fulfilling prophecy to destroy the opportunity of experience we have now. And I think that's why I see religion as a tool from the elites to bring us all down, to say this is what's going to happen and this is what has happened, but forget about where you are now. Only focus on the past story of Jesus or the Bible. Only focus on the future of Armageddon. And meanwhile, you're in between somewhere, but don't focus on that. Just look at the future and the past, where you're going,
Right.
It's like a sick joke, Meanwhile, here we are in this garden of abundance. We're coherent enough to have a atmosphere that gives us oxygen, and we have these cars, and we're wandering around, driving around, worrying about our cell phones, battery dying, and oh my gosh, we think so small. But if we thought a little larger and say, hey, you know what? I'm free from the past and I'm free from the future. I'm going to love my neighbor, like Jesus said, for real. I'm actually going to practice that. Holy cow.
Right?
I don't know.
I Yeah, I fell out of admiration of religion and everything that goes along with it. And I have a much more existential belief now.
I'm the same way, and I don't really know how to classify myself. And I don't try to, but it's hard when you get asked that question. So what are you? It's like, what do you believe in? It's like, well,
I'm not really anything.
I know. And how do you answer? And that's always been my hang up, man. It's so funny that you're in the same boat because I don't negate other people's belief. It's like
Exactly.
I don't
I'm
shoot people down. If you want to
believe
believe in the
simply
Bible and
because,
think that it is fundamentally true, hey, have at it. As long as we can have a conversation and you respect that I don't necessarily go that route, then we're cool. But if you want to throw me into some sort of demon category, then I got an issue. The same as if I don't believe in Krishna or if I don't believe in, or whatever other images out there to believe in. But at the same time, I'm not saying there isn't a great mystery we're a part of, because that's what I celebrate the most. This
I
is a
think
huge.
I think the thing that bothers me the most is that the people who believe that we were just poofed here. I think that's the thing that bothers me the most. And with genetics the way that it is today, and with cloning and with all of the encompassing medical stuff, I have to believe we were engineered, and it wasn't just dust with some breath in it. I just don't believe that, and I haven't believed that for many, many, many years. In fact, I don't think I ever believed that, to tell you the truth. I think I always questioned that particular part, and I was like, that can't be. I mean, I'm a pretty smart individual. I like to think I'm pretty smart anyway, and so all these other smart people are saying that this, or so-called smart people are saying this is fact, this is true, this is what it is, this is, and I'm
That's
like,
what disturbs me the most. What you're describing is what disturbed me the most always, is these rigid boundaries on like, well, this is what has to be true, because without this structure, without this frame to put our experience in, people are just going to be running around raping people and killing everybody.
right.
And I've heard that excuse when you really go through the motions with fundamentalists in the sense of like interpreting what this is all about. They finally get down to the point and say, well, if we don't believe in this, then everybody's just going to run around killing everyone. If they're not afraid of God, then they're going to run around and rape everybody and kill everybody. Well, I'm sorry, but that's already happening. And these are the people that are supposed to believe the most.
Right.
We got the Vatican raping children. We got how many holy wars? I mean, okay, so you're telling me that you're afraid that
We
there'll
had the
be complete
Crusades. We
chaos.
now have this. We have had the Alexandria burning. The people, countless millions and millions of murders over the past millennium, and all in the name of holy.
And that's the thing, is I don't want to do anything in the name of other than my own accountability. I want to be held accountable for my life. I don't want to murder people. I don't want to murder 30 people and then have someone come to me and say, hey, it's all right, you did that. You don't have to be really held accountable for it. As long as you say you're sorry and apologize to Jesus, he'll save you and you're forgiven. Yay! I'm going to dance off into the sunset. No, I want to be held accountable for my actions. I don't want a scapegoat.
Right.
And maybe that's asking for something out of the ordinary, but that's the standard at which I live my life. I don't want a mythological or a true, however people interpret it. I want to hold myself accountable for my actions. Well, I've never hit a woman. I've never started.
No one else is accountable for. I mean, if there's anything we've ever learned in life, it's that no one else is accountable for our actions,
except ourselves.
You can't say. You can't say, "Oh, well, Johnny over here told me to kill this person, so I did." And
Yeah.
Johnny's going to jail. You are.
Well, and the problem is with that is how many people have said, well, God told me to do it.
Right.
And I'm not, who am I to question which God are you talking about? Because there's about, 40,000 of them.
Right. I was gonna say 50 million, but
There's 40,000 of them when you talk about all the, Aboriginal, and it's funny. I always talk to some fundamentalist Christians and I say, well, you're an atheist. And they're saying, no, I'm not. It's like, well, you believe that there's one God out of 30,000 that is the real one. So there's 29,999 gods that you're an atheist of.
right.
And I mean, that's just the cold hard truth.
Like, no, there's only one.
No, how dare you? There's only one. There can be only one. And again, there can be only one world order. There can be only one construct of what a God is. There can be only one even definition of what a God is. And that's where I kind of lose touch with even talking about using that term God. Okay, what is God? Now, as soon as you say that in the Western world, you're going to immediately have, to a lot of old schoolers, long white beard sitting on the throne, book of life, writing it down. He's got his son that came down, sacrificed himself. Okay, you start going down that path. But how would a tribe on an island that hasn't encountered Western civilization interpret the word God? Well, first of all, we have to have someone that knows how to speak their language.
Right.
That has to hang out with them long enough to even know if they have a word for God. Because frankly, most of the indigenous cultures didn't have a word for God like we do in this culture right now.
Right, because they don't believe in that.
One unified force that moves everything.
Most of them don't believe in a monotheistic belief system anyway. They believe in polytheism.
Exactly. And polytheism is a very dangerous thing because then you start aspects of influence.
Not until the reign of, who was it? It wasn't Seti. It was it was Amen.
Was it Constantine?
Amen's son, who actually began the monotheistic belief system. Amen Ra.
There you go. The sun god, yeah.
Amen Ra was the first of all of the Egyptian kings to move into a monotheistic belief system. Until then, it was all polytheistic, and and he was. Oh no, it wasn't. Was it Amun Ra?
I'm not sure which angle you're describing, but I know Amun Ra was the Egyptian sun god. Amun Ra was was this.
No, I'm trying to think of the king who actually, who said that Ra was the only god, and after they had been in theistic belief systems for a long time, it was Tutankhamun's son. So
gotcha. So definitely Egyptian era there you're thinking about.
Yeah. I mean,
that Ra was the only, the one true God. I mean,
it wasn't. I'm trying to think of his name, and I just can't think of it right now. But
the son of Tutankhamun. Because I think the Tutankhamun wasn't he a child? Didn't he die when he was younger? Or I can't remember right now. I'm stretching on my Egyptian history with the. And again, how do we know any of that's true?
He was young, actually. And they've even figured out that Tutankhamun's mask was made of like 3 different masks. It wasn't made for him. It was made for a female. And
there you go.
That his mask wasn't his own. It was made for him after. It was made for him out of several pieces of other masks. So
they found fragments of something else that was based behind it, huh?
Yes.
Wow, dude. I didn't know that. Was that recent discovery or?
Yeah, and they actually the face of his mask was was a female's face, and it had earrings, which boys did not have earrings, and or maybe it was no, it was only older men that had earrings. Boys didn't have earrings, and they the face of the mask was actually put on to the headdress and
Mhm.
after the fact. So it, they were several different pieces that were put together. And let me see. Um, I will find it.
I was just trying to open up my window to research what you were saying, and I can't. And the funny thing is that after my conversation with my daughter today about how many people are on the earth, every time I open an internet browser now, I'm going to be like, on whose authority am I researching? How can I vet this information? You know?
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
again, I don't want to be totally paranoid and be like, I can't trust anything. The one thing I can trust is gravity, the flow of water, wild game, how to gut a deer. And I don't want to go all primal either, you know, because I enjoy philosophy. I enjoy talking about the esoteric and also the idealistic nature of the world. But at the same touch of that, can I vet? How do we vet the explanation of existence? How do we prove there's a God of either an Aborigines tribe or Judeo-Christian existence? And the only thing is our influence from being brought up as children in that, or coming to it from another angle. You know?
No, okay, Akhenaten.
Okanagan?
Akhenaten. Akhenaten
Akhenaten.
was the person who founded monotheistic beliefs in ancient Egypt.
There you
Akhenaten.
go.
Aten's son. It was Aten's son, not Tutankhamun, but it was Aten's son. So Akhenaten, son of Aten.
I've never heard of that name, but and who recorded that and how do they know? Who
Oh,
interpreted that? You
he
know,
was
that's a
actually Akhenaten was almost erased from history because of the fact that he he came up with this monotheistic belief system because the people were extremely mad that he came up with this system after many eons of being polytheistic, and they liked having their several different gods. You know what I mean? They liked having the sun god and the god of of planting and the and the god of harvest and the god of there was a god for damn everything. So
well, and I feel like that I mean, maybe I'm a crazy pagan or I don't know. It's just like, you know how you have a bad day one day and the next day you feel like you're on top of the world?
yes,
I understand that kind of persona of the human experience because if you're on top of the world every day because you have the golden ticket that you only have to do one thing, accept this as your belief and you're done. Then how do we move forward as a species if there's only one thing you have to do? I accept this and I am done. Because again, through the scripture, we don't get there by our works or through our actions or anything. We just have to believe and accept. To me, I feel like that's the biggest hoax ever. Because if we're not trying to better ourselves as creations of whatever we are, anything that teaches that we should not push ourselves to grow every single day and we have a golden ticket to get out of this dilemma really easily, all you got to do is believe, sign up on the golden list, and you'll die and you'll go to the great pie in the sky. I feel like that is a setup. I feel like we're set up because we're not pushing ourselves.
a giant hoax.
And that's where I feel like we've been neutered. That's how you neuter a population and make them great slaves, because you wait for the payoff until you die. You don't wait. I want the payoff now. And the payoff isn't me winning the lottery or having a bucket of money. No, the payoff for me is I want my liberty and my freedom and my experience now. I don't want it when I die. I don't want it tomorrow. I'm going to do what I can do right now to have it. Right now. Oh, well, we'll pass a bill and 3 years from now, things will be better. Screw you. I want it now. Well, when you die, you'll walk on streets of gold and you'll fly around and you'll be forever and ever and happy. No, I want it now.
Sure.
That's the problem.
I don't believe
the problem
in that.
With now is always, you know.
I really don't. And the diamond encrusted pillars and the
and the gates that have all the pearly gems and the pearly gates, and you know what? Keep your gems, keep your gold, all that. I just want truth. I want to live in a world of truth, and I want to spew it out like some sort of mad volcano, you know. And if I can't have that now, if I can't have truth now, I'm certainly not going to play along with some sort of, you know, pantomime. I don't want to pantomime some song that I don't have any connection to. And at the same time, you know, maybe I'm going outside the boundaries of comfort zone with, well, we've got it all figured out. How dare you rock that boat? But I'm sorry, I would prefer to rock the boat and question this reality than to just go along with what's been handed to me from, you know, 500 years of generational, you know, here's what's going to happen when you die. Here's what's going to happen when you die.
You see,
I mean, I don't know.
Tried to push that stuff on me, and I never, ever, ever, ever could believe it. I was just there was something there that told me this isn't true.
I know. And that was the hardest thing, being a pastor's kid. I mean, hearing those sermons and sitting in tent revivals all through my summers, like, you know, 5 days in a row, and you better believe or burn, or even if it wasn't that, it's just like, well, okay, how do any of you know this is true?
You got to praise.
Yeah.
At least
well,
you
how
got
about we celebrate
in silence while somebody else just spoke.
And again, you know, we kind of went into this on that long conversation we had on the phone that one night, but I don't want to be involved with a death cult. And frankly, if anyone's hanging on a crucifix in a perpetual state of suffering, I want to be on the opposite side of the room where people are celebrating being alive, celebrating being, you know, reborn every moment, hopefully, as opposed to being a perpetual state of suffering. And I think that that is the big trick the Catholic Church, that has all this power, has played on the world. And also, people don't realize that, or even Protestant or even fundamentalists, how much influence the Catholic Church had on their beliefs now. Not only are they responsible for interpreting the Bible and translating it, but I mean, throughout the ages of carrying on the Christian tradition, if you're a Christian and you don't think the Catholic Church had anything to do with the beliefs you carry now, then you're kind of behind on understanding what that whole camp is about, you know. Maybe I'm wrong.
No.
So when you have that much of an influence over that, and you carry it over into a modern Protestant era being era as in time, a space of time, you have to say, well, they have their own city, they have their own treasures, and they have their own secret vaults that are not open to the public. Was that the initial vision of Jesus?
Vatican?
Oh, exactly. Yeah, Catholicism.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, back in the day, if you cross the Catholics, you get excommunicated, and you're off the throne, my friend.
And killed. They would hang you. And shit.
Oh, dude. You get killed, you get burned at the stake. You got the Inquisition, you got the Spanish Inquisition. Also have excommunication. I mean, imagine, like, okay, you're the king of England, right?
Mormons have excommunication too.
What's that?
Mormons have excommunication too.
There you go. Well, if you have any black and white extremist view where you cannot have any mystery left, everything is explained. absolutely every aspect of this experience is explained. That is the only time you can have a thing called excommunication. As far as beliefs go, now you can have an ethical excommunication. For instance, if someone comes in and kills my entire tribe, I would want to excommunicate them from my life. But ideologically, having an excommunication is based on saying, we have cornered the market on truth. There is no mystery left. We have the entire thing interpreted. There is nothing to be surprised by, because it's all written. We're done. So sign off on that. And if you don't believe, then you're blasphemous, you know?
Yeah, I know all about that.
And that doesn't sit well with me. I wish it would. I wish I could sign off on some sort of black and white dichotomy of, well, we're on the good team, you're on the bad team, and I see where the lines are drawn. Now, certainly I don't necessarily, even though I'm not in that camp, I don't go along with the lines of government being, you know, out for our best interest. But that's like, you know, common sense. It doesn't take some sort of secret, you know, power to understand that our best interest isn't being kept by the government. They're certainly not our brother's keeper.
No, they really are. Don't you know that? They want to take care of us and give us free shit.
Are you going to have a real smoke out there, or are you just going to do the...
No, I'm going to have a real cigarette.
There you go, man. You know, I still do the rollies, even though I tried the vapor thing.
No,
The only reason I do this, and I, you know, it's always a hard thing to meld into chat rooms where people are so strong on the fundamentalist version of, like, you know, God's going to save us, he's going to come back, we're going to go through Revelation. And again, I'm a student of history, and I don't know how much of that history is true or not, or how much of the interpretations of the Bible are true or not, but there has been many times throughout the last 2,000 years, well, I would say about the last 1,600 years, because that's when it really got cranked up, the last 1,600, where people felt like it was the end of the world, you know, and that we should all, you know, it's all going to end, and then it doesn't, and then we're still here. 1,600 years of that, based on this one interpretation of it. And that's only from what I've been told.
Still waiting for that guy to come back.
Yeah, well, he's going to save us. And the problem I have with that storyline is that someone else is going to save us. We can't save ourselves. We have to wait for someone else to do it for us. Now, if I were wanting to create a slave race, I certainly would want people waiting on a savior as opposed to being empowered. And that's just me thinking from an elitist mindset. If I wanted to make people
sheep,
pretty much, you have to wait. You have to say, well, we're gonna have our punches in the eye, and we're gonna have our life of suffering, but at least when we die, we'll walk on the streets of gold, and we'll be in heaven forever and ever. Now, I mean, if that's not a setup, I don't know what is.
You'll be okay.
Yeah, it'll be okay. All you got to do is just keep your head down, you know, give Caesar his due. That's in the scripture. I don't agree with that at all. I give the big middle finger to Caesar, frankly. And that's just my own perspective. Maybe that's blasphemy because I'm going against what was, you know, told.
No, the exact phrasing there was, give what to Caesar is Caesar's and give what to God is God's. And
yeah, I say Caesar could, you know, why is he royalty to begin with? You know, why do we need royalty? And that's another problem I have with the idea of royalty.
Behind that. Like, what he was making was that God didn't need money. And see, what's so funny about that is, what is it the churches want now? All they want is money and followers.
Well, show me a church that doesn't ask for donations.
Exactly.
And that's not that doesn't mean, people say, well, you have to have something to start something with. It's like, yeah, you have to have a lot of heart and a lot of spirit and a lot of focus and a lot of ingenuity. Yeah, of course. Yeah. But at the same time, it's, you know, there's a lot of other things you can have a lot of too.
You don't need a building and you don't need money.
And that's where it all went to black and white. And that's why I feel like again, the only truth I've found in just the 40 years I've been alive is that the only place I've ever been is now. Everything I've been told about the past, I can't vet. I wasn't there when Christ walked the earth. I wasn't there to translate. I don't speak Aramaic. Maybe I could spend the rest of my life learning it. I don't speak Greek. Even if I did, even if I learned the languages and spent the rest, the next 15, 20 years of my life trying to get to the bottom of Aramaic and Greek, someone else is still going to be at the mercy of my interpretation of that language.
Right.
And the problem is we've been doing that for what, 1,400 years? 15, 1,400 from the basic translations over into the. So go.
About 1,800 years.
There you go. I mean, we're about 200 to 300 years past the life of Christ when things started getting really written down as the Gospels.
That we're like 300 years off. We're in the 1600s. We're not even into the 21st century. We're like in the 1600s actually.
There you go. And with that as a backstory, am I going to run out and tell everyone that the literal translation I have right now of a book that I can't read the original translation from, I don't even speak those two languages, I'm going to go out and pound that in their face and say, you better believe or you're going to burn? No. I wouldn't be so arrogant as to do that because I realize my own weakness. I don't speak those languages. I'm not going to run to your door and beat on your door and tell you better believe this or die, because we have to be honest with our experience, and that would not be me being honest. But I don't know. I'm kind of ranting on that whole Judeo-Christian influence that I had in my childhood. But at the same time, I mean, if you're going to go that route, why aren't you teaching ancient Aramaic and Greek in your churches, like from day one?
Because they don't want you to know their knowledge. That's why.
There you go. Translation and interpretation is the best way to keep people from the truth.
Yeah, they won't teach us the ancient languages, which is why we have to do it ourselves. Like I studied Latin, and most of our modern day languages are derived from Latin. So our medical technical terms are all Latin.
Yep.
Spanish is Latin.
The Romantic languages, especially, yeah.
Which is where Latino comes from, Latin. And,
there you go.
So if you know Latin, you can pretty much decipher, like I would say, 50% of the languages on earth.
Mm-hmm. Especially the French, English, Italian, Spanish.
Yeah.
They're all the Romantic languages they call them. I don't know why they're Romantic. I think they're just all related to the same basic structure, as opposed to like jumping to something like Aramaic. It's like, okay, that's a totally different league.
Yeah, well, Aramaic came from Sumeria, basically. Mm-hmm. Aramaic came from Sumerian language, I think. I mean, that's where Sumeria was in.
Yeah, definitely related to the Sumerian language. Yeah, and that's something that, again, it's like I'm having conversations about languages in parts of the world I've never existed in my, time on Earth. I've never even been there.
Right.
And I'm having and it's like, well, what authority do I have? I don't speak it. I don't read it. But I'm going to follow a book that's been interpreted, 80,000 times between now and then. And how do I know if I'm going to make a claim so much as to say I have the translated English version of what God said? I'm certainly going to know the source, and I'm certainly going to read every book of it, every word of it, memorize it, and make sure I understand the original source. And I guess right. God only speaks Aramaic and Greek,
Aramaic.
Yeah. But I don't know. That's just me. And maybe I'm hard to hedge on that, but it's just like, if I'm going to sign off on complete deity in influence, and I've got to have a little more to go on than the Catholic Church telling me, well, this is the one you need to read. Here you go, son. You
Well,
know.
that's really where it lies anyway. That's the language that they spoke. They didn't speak English, you know. They
Exactly.
they spoke Aramaic, and they spoke Hebrew. They didn't speak English, and they didn't you know they didn't even have a clue what English was because it wasn't even invented yet. And
And that's the hard part, with language is people think that you can just like, they have these programs on the computer now where you just type in like an English phrase and it's going to spit out the perfect French translation. No, it doesn't, because there's situational, there's
because
nuance,
not only that, like their language is different. It's like Spanish is backwards from English.
There you go.
You don't say I
Hmm.
go to the house, you say to the house I go. And it's always the noun before the predicate. And so
Yep.
it's like in learning Spanish, I really learned a lot about other languages, and I learned German too. So
Mm.
so I'm not fluently trilingual, but I'm pretty fluent. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
um, I've lost a lot of my German because I haven't used it over the years, but I can still understand it, and I may not be able to speak it all, but I can understand it, and I'm pretty fairly fluent in Spanish. I can read and write and speak it. So, um, although I must say it's much easier to understand it and read it than it is to speak it sometimes. Um,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, as soon as you have a verbal or oral tradition, and then you have nuance and you have inflection and you have the way you say things. That's why I get frustrated with texting sometimes, because it's like you can text something and based on how you read it, it could mean, 8 different things.
right, exactly.
And that's why people don't understand Mandarin. There's a lot of time. And again, I don't speak Mandarin. I
I
haven't
speak a
studied
little
it. Other
Mandarin actually.
there you studied it, did you say?
I speak a little Mandarin
Nice. Well,
and Russian
maybe
and
this is,
Croatian.
I want you to check me on this, because this is what I've been told by people that have studied it, and I've looked into like manuscripts. But Mandarin and Chinese is one of the hardest languages to learn, because you have the provincial influence from the way it's spoken in all these different areas.
Mandarin is
And
one of the 5 Chinese languages. China
uh-huh.
has 5 different languages,
Hmm.
or 5 different dialects. So,
And then you have the provincial dialects as well, based on the 5 main ones, where you have like, I guess it's like going to the South and like, hey man, what's going on? I just fixed my tractor, and you're out in LA and someone's like, I don't understand what he's saying.
right,
Because China is such a big country, you have the provincial influence based on the hollers, as we would call it in Tennessee, the certain areas that have dialectic kind of bubbles in a way, you know. But anywho, I don't know. We're going off on language, and I don't know. I've just always felt like if I wasn't raised in a culture where my deity could speak my language without it being translated through 3 other languages, then hey, here I am. Let's talk now, God. And that's where I've always been. It's like I want to have a living relationship with the Creator, as opposed to like digging through the dust and sweeping up what happened in the Middle East 2,000 years ago. It's like, hey, I'm here now. Let's talk. You know.
right.
And maybe that's demanding. Maybe people would say, oh, no, no, no. You have to go back through the ancient scriptures and dig through the Aramaic and the Greek, because that's the only time there was ever a clear message. Well, I'm sorry. If that's the only time there was ever a clear message, then I don't want to have anything to do with it, because I've been cheated. And so have you and everyone alive right now. Maybe that's hard edge. Maybe that's blasphemy. But hey, that's where I'm at. We're here now. We're alive. We should have a living connection with our Creator. If there's no way to have that, and I got to dig through the past and not experience things directly from 2,000 years ago, then hey, it's not for me.
No, and see, here's something that I like to point out to people, that like are hardcore into the Bible, I'm like, have you read the Apocrypha?
There you go.
You know,
Book of Thomas, all those
have you
good
read,
ones. Yeah, we
have
talked
you
about
read
that a long time.
because if you haven't read the Apocrypha, then you really don't know the Bible,
Yep.
because
Well, those
that's
got booted out. There was a council of people that decided. There was a bunch of
the Council at
spiritual
Nicaea.
authorities of the time that decided that the canon of the Bible that they got inherited was going to be the one that they're touting now is the true living Word of God. But there were books that were kicked out.
Yeah,
And I
that
know
was
when you
the Council of Nicaea.
like,
That was done by the Holy Roman Church.
exactly.
Yes.
And that's something you bring up and it was like, what? You mean there's more to the Bible? Well, yes, there was a council that decided these books are in, these are out.
Books. And there's books that are locked up inside the Vatican that will never see the light of day.
Oh, yeah. Just like the Dead Sea Scrolls, the ones they don't want to release anymore.
Part of them, you know, part of
Yeah.
the Dead Sea Scrolls was part of them were translated, and now they're part of the Nag Hammadi, the library of the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Apocrypha. So those are the Gnostic texts, and this actually literally means knowledge. So all of the knowledge that was in the Bible, all the real knowledge, was taken out and at the Council of Nicaea, so that people wouldn't have those keys.
Do you know what I think it all kind of comes down to as a mathematical observation is that throughout the course of human existence, whenever humanity has been separated from the true source of understanding and connection with its existence, that's when people focus on the time until a new connection comes available. And I think that's why we're still focusing on 2,000 years ago. That's when the umbilical cord was cut with our direct connection. So now we have to live on idealism, ideology, religion, representation, as opposed to experiencing the thing directly. Then we're going to go through this cycle of being separate from it and reading scripture and somehow idealizing it outside of ourselves without just living it. Because when you live something, you don't need to represent it anymore. It just is, you know?
Right, exactly.
And so we go through this cycle, and this has happened before in human history. I mean, I don't have proof of this. It's just observing a pattern from what's going on right now. So we got to go all through this until we just beat the scriptures to death. You know, we just beat this book to death. We dig through every corner. We have all the, you know, charlatans, you know, give us money, on and on. Then one day, something happens, some sort of energetic shift, or we get tired of that and we're saying, you know what, we're back to the now. We got to watch out for each other. What happened 2,000 years ago happened 2,000 years ago, and then it starts all over again. I mean, that's the only pattern I can see, because I don't see anything beneficial or truly profitable coming out of it other than strife, death, and just more of the same. I mean, I wish I could say it's been highly successful, and people will say, well, the struggle's half the battle. Sure it is, but that's only half the battle. It shouldn't all be suffering. It shouldn't be all be worshiping death. And
that's why there's uprisings, and that's why there's revolutions, and that's why I mean, Jesus was on his own revolution. Let's face it.
And I mean, at that time, I mean, even that, if you go by even the stories we did get translated that we can read, even if we go on that, it's like, well, if what you're saying right now is revolutionary to the old school ways that you should look at things, then I think you're on the right path. If what you're saying right now goes exactly along with what you should be believing, then you're kind of just more of the same. And I want to be outside of more of the same, because I don't think that way. I can't think of like, everyone's good and I believe everyone, and I don't have any issues with that. I'm just going to go along with it and accept it and die one day. Done. I want to at least have some fun with
yeah, right.
We have in our head, you know, and it's like, well, what about this? And what about that? And how do I know that's true? And how do I know this is true? I mean,
right, but they don't like it when you do that. You're a free thinker then.
Yeah, and that's a big problem.
It's dangerous. That's
you can't be running around questioning everything. You just have to accept it.
Right.
And believe me, and that's why we have grades in school. That's why it's like a bunch of eggs getting pumped through an egg factory. Are you going to be labeled, you're going to be labeled an A egg or an F egg? Ooh.
Right? You're not as pretty as the rest of the eggs.
Yeah. Oh, you're a trouble egg. We're gonna give you an F and send you down the tubes, and you're gonna have to be a mechanic the rest of your life and live a life of hard labor, a slave to those that actually went along with the programming.
Right. Exactly.
But the funny thing is that they cannot get a grip on that system. That's why they're spraying us all and doing all this other stuff. They just can't get full control over the human spirit. And the problem is that if we give up our human spirit and our existence right now and what we should be doing and how we should be looking at the world, and we give all that back to the past, or we give it to the authorities on whether it's religion, politics, or whatever, if we give away our authority to other people to tell us what to believe and what to think, then you might as well just go ahead and fucking eat the 12 gauge. Just shove it in your mouth and pull the trigger, because you're done. You're the Walking Dead, just like the famous TV show. I don't want to be that.
Well, and not only that, but you're going to end up in a FEMA camp somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, I would rather fucking be hung from a tree or be dead than to know that I have no choice of thinking my own thoughts, or I'm going to be beat into submission to fall in line with something that I have no connection to. I mean, the problem is that it's a soft kill in the way of consumerism, and you have here's abundance, here's false abundance, now go out and enjoy it for 3 generations. Now it's the norm. If you don't have your choice of mochaccino in the morning or your choice of ice cream parlor, then you've 3 generations, you're done. You've separated everyone from the realism of what it takes to exist on this planet, aside from the conveniences that's been used to dismantle our own self-reliance. And I don't know. It's kind of like folding back each layer. We could go on and on. I don't know. Someone asked, do I homeschool? Yes. I have actually, I'm in a cooperative program with a Waldorf-inspired school, and also I do homeschooling as well. And my daughter is actually asleep on the couch behind me right now, because we were watching Sweeney Todd earlier. Someone was asking that.
I love that movie. I really love that movie.
Well, it's funny. One of the great lines from that musical was, it's good to know that those above will serve down those down below. And that's when he's slitting all the elites' throats and making them into pies and serving them to the poor. Right. Which again, I don't endorse cannibalism, but
they loved it. They loved those fucking pies.
I know. More hot pies.
Pies ever.
Well, I'm gonna take a bathroom break here and come right back, but I need to step outside and take I'm actually pet sitting a dog that's here with me right now. I need to step outside with them, and also I need to relieve myself. But
that's okay. You can leave your thing running and just mute out or whatever, so you don't have to.
I'll mute it, and I'll be right back. I gotta take the dog out and also relieve myself.
Cool.
Be back in a sec, man.
Right on. So while he's doing that, we will find something to show, which I don't usually show too much, but I'm going to tonight, because this is gonna touch base with what we're talking about tomorrow on our show. So I figure no, you wait. So hold on, I have to check this real quick. Sorry, people. So this is actually one of the people I subscribe to. This guy's pretty awesome, and I really enjoy his stuff. And this is a little off subject of what we've been talking about, but I think it's probably pertinent to a lot about what we represent, and I think it's pertinent to the discussion. So I'm gonna skip this stupid video
for the next 6.
Stupid ads. I hate ads. So I'm gonna show this to you because this is like, honestly, it's extremely on the path of what our network is doing. So if everyone can see that, I hope you can see that. So I'm just going to play this little video. It's about 6 minutes long, and this is a doctor of common sense, or yeah, but I'm not going by that anymore.
We are not the silent majority any longer. We are the vocal majority. And see, the liberals and the rest of these media hacks have been telling you that you are in the minority. Now we find out, since Donald Trump has came up, that we are the majority. And I've been telling people this for years. People would send me messages and emails, say, I'm glad you're speaking out, but it seems like we're in the minority. I said, no, we're not. That's what they want you to believe. When you see these jackass protesters blocking the streets, when you see these jackass protesters going to the rally, trying to shut down freedom of speech, you would think that you're in a third world country. You would think you are amongst those migrants who they want to bring in. See, maybe they need the migrants over, teach them how to properly riot and tear things, because they're pretty good at doing that in Egypt, Afghanistan, in Benghazi. But see, over in America, we have different laws. Just because you are offended, it doesn't silence my freedom of expression. And I've stated this many times, my freedom of expression don't necessarily come from the Constitution, even though the Constitution says that I have a freedom of expression. My freedom of expression comes from on high. God Almighty gave you a freedom. When you were created in your mother's womb and you became human, you had a right to speak out and voice your opinion. There are some people on the left and on the right who wants to silence you from speaking your mind. But we refuse to be silent any longer. We have been silent too long. We don't care how many protests they have. We don't care how pissed off they have. If we got to lock a bunch of those bastards up, so be it. But you will not violate our First Amendment rights. We will not stand by and allow you to destroy the country that so many have died for. Because you're upset because we don't want socialism. Memo to idiot. We did not found this country on socialism. It was based on some of the Judeo-Christian values what founded this country. And what made this country great is capitalism. Not crony capitalism, not nepotism, but capitalism. And now we have been overridden by a bunch of despots and a bunch of anarchists and a bunch of people who decided that they know what's best for you. You got the mob-like mentality that goes from rally to rally. And then you got the despots who are in office telling you whom you may elect. You know, I believe that the founding fathers will be turning over in their graves. I believe that they will be sick to their stomach on what we have allowed this country to become. $20 trillion in debt, being beat down by China on trade, being beat down by Mexico and Japan and Germany on trade. And you want me to believe that Donald Trump is the problem? What's the question again, if he's the problem? Because last time I checked, the reason we owe $20 trillion in debt is because of the Democrats and the Republicans who are nothing but a one-party system who have came together and destroyed this country. Now we see this outrage. We see the lacks of the mid-runners who purposely, I think, sabotaged the election because they wanted Barack Obama back in office. This lets them stay relevant so they can blame the problems on him. And then they turn around and let the Republicans have it for a while, then they can blame the problems on them. It's a one-party system that has been going on in this country, and we should be sick of it by now. We will no longer be the silent majority. We will be the vocal majority. And we're not going to stand around and play patty cake and worry about you getting your damn feelings hurt. If your feelings get hurt, that sounds like a you problem to me. We're not concerned about your feelings getting hurt because doing the right thing supersedes your damn feelings. So if your feelings get hurt about Donald Trump or somebody who happens to be in the Common Sense Nation, I say turn the channel. Don't go to his rally. Stop being stupid. Because it's past time for us to keep going down this road. If we go any further down the road, if we allow one of these politicians from one of these parties to get in there, all we're doing is seeing the system being bled dry. Now, the system may bleed a little slower when the Republicans take over, but they still going to bleed the system dry. They've been doing it for years. They have not stopped anything. The whole thing has become a damn joke. Anybody who's been on the side with their particular party and has not been this outspoken, what happened to all these outspoken people before Donald Trump came along? I didn't hear Ted Cruz being this outspoken. Of course, he did a little filibuster, he stood up. But think about it. He was trying to get a citizenship, a pathway citizenship for the 11 million who came over here and broke the law. He said it on tape. I played the tape the other day. Don't take my word for it. TPP. Who's for that? And you want me to believe that those ones who created the problems are now going to solve? How insane that is. That's like telling you that the people who've been robbing the houses are going to fix and catch the criminals who've been robbing the houses. They are the problem. And if you think they are solutions, you are deceiving yourself. Do not be silenced by these idiots who insist on shutting you down because you're speaking for freedom. This is still America, is it not? Let's act like it.
My fix, you junkyard dog. Doctor, please examine.
What was that punching girl at the end there?
I don't know.
That was interesting.
It was, wasn't it?
It's like, oh, she's gonna box our jaws, tell us how it is, and she's like, out. Wow, dude. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's all we can say about it, really, if we're honest with ourselves. I feel like it's a long and strange journey. And you're going to get a lot of information dumped on you if you're open to it. And if you are open to it, then what do we do with it?
Right. Exactly.
I mean, I would love to be able to restore the Constitution and go back to 1776, sure. But at the same time,
That was a different time.
that was a different time, exactly. And it's not that I don't think there are principles that still hold true, but the problem is that has been eroded out from under our feet before we were even born. It was already being eroded. And the course of history through all civilizations, I mean, we have things like common law that have always held up with like basic principles on how we treat each other and what our rights are. But the idea of fully restoring a constitution that was written in 1776, and that's going to be written in stone for the rest of human existence, and we can never move forward in a new way, well, I think that's a tough one, you know? I don't know what the answer would be to a new constitution or a new way to relate to each other. I don't have those answers. I would be the first one to admit I don't know, you know? And I think that's the first step we have to take as a human species, is saying, I don't know. But I do know one thing is true. In the meantime, we're still here on this planet together, and we're still having this experience. We're trying to pick up the pieces from an idea that was set into motion in 1776 before we were even, you know, we weren't even anywhere near the playing field during that time, you know? And all we have to go on is what we've been told about that.
Now from that.
What's that?
We're far too removed now from that.
Exactly. And we have a lot of other angles. I mean, those founders didn't have the internet, didn't have cell phones, didn't think about sending satellites into space. If any of that's true, I do know the internet's true right now, because unless this is a great hoax, that I'm talking to someone named Damien.
Right.
Unless it's a great hoax. I don't think it is. Maybe it is. We question everything until we have proof of it. But I have met people that I've talked to on the internet before, so I know that that's somewhat plausible. But when we go into the whole depth of it, there's been no civilization that's been able to hang on to the principles for more than 200 years without it having some sort of flack. And that's what we're experiencing now in this culture. And maybe we can expand on those principles. Maybe we have a new angle to approach, a new voice to be heard. But the problem is that if we only want to resurrect what happened then and not add anything new to it, then we're going to be stuck then. And it doesn't mean, again, there aren't valid points to the Constitution. I totally feel that there are valid points to it, but the idea of something being set in stone for all of eternity and we can never question it like some sort of holy document, that brings up the issue of what we were talking about before.
That guy actually got a visit from the Secret Service because he said that he would like to punch Barack Obama in the face.
Well, you know, and that's just that's absurd. The idea that you would.
But they did. Seriously, he went there like right after they left, and he was like, "Well, you know, they visited me today."
The guy who experienced that, was he doing some sort of live feed, or was he like talking on, you know, posting, or how did he say he wanted to do that?
What do you mean?
The guy who did get a visit from the Secret Service, was he on like some sort of live feed, or did he like just make a post, or?
I think he just records, and I've never caught one of his live shows, and I'm subscribed to him. So if he does live shows, I'm not aware of it. But I think he records his videos and then puts them on.
Well, I guess that's, you know, that's the whole dilemma of if the powers that be can get you violent, then they know how to deal with you.
Right.
But if they can get you, if something gets you thinking,
But all
then
he
you're a
said
wild
was he
card.
would like to, not that he was going to, not that he would go to DC and try to find him. He just said he would like to.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, and again, that shows the desperation on how you want to bring down the hammer on people now for just even suggesting that, which brings back the days of the Mad King George. You have only the fool can say things about the king, no one else.
Right. Right. Only him.
Only the fool. And that was a great release valve for keeping a monarchy intact, was having the fool, the only one that could say anything humiliating about the king. Everyone would just laugh it off and go to their party. Anyone else says it, anyone of state, oh, forget it. You're under the axe the next day. But not
Right.
the fool. And I think that's a fascinating concept to apply to our situation now, is that if you look at it in any reasonable context, there's no way to look at this without it saying immediately, this is a total charade. Everything we're being presented information-wise from the authorities that supposedly rule over this land or over our lives, what we call government or what we call officials, there's no way to look at it and say this isn't a total charade. It is a total wearing the mask, pretending to be something you're not. And as long as people are comfortable with that, then it will continue. There's nowhere else to go with that. Being comfortable with something and going along with it, that's just what we do, because comfort is an aphrodisiac. Comfort is addiction. And that's why convenience has been used as a tool to make us all complacent and settle in our ways. But it's going to get harder and harder to be comfortable with the situation we're in, because we just happen to be born in a country that's being destroyed right now on purpose.
Exactly.
That just happens to be the.
But
Oh, someone asked me what is the solution, in my opinion. Well, that's something coming together and trying to figure out. I do know that it's important to disconnect from even the internet for a while and go out in nature and just stay in touch with your physical surroundings as best you can, and understand how things work, and not live in an idealistic world to where we think we can talk ourselves out of this. There's no way to talk ourselves out of this one. I wish we could.
Yeah, but I don't think so.
It doesn't mean that talk isn't important. It's like the season of everything. No talk and all physical action is a danger. All talk and no physical action is a danger. I mean, you go both ways. There has to be a balance. But I don't think there's an immediate solution other than connecting as much as you can with your immediate environment and those around you in your immediate environment, that you can sit across and look into their eyes without using a camera or a screen. Connect to them as much as you can, and also come back here and connect to everyone you can that you can't sit across from. I can't be in South Carolina right now, and you can't be in Oregon, but because of this technology, we can have a conversation like this and have people conversing over it. And I think that's a part of the experience, just like staying in touch with the physical side of it. And I don't think we should go too far in either direction. That's the only thing I can think of moving forward. But
Right.
and it's got to run its full course. They're right. It's got to run its course. It's like any poison. When you have the fever, has to work its way out. You get the high fever, and you burn up for a while, and then there's a purification of all things in life. You know, I was thinking about this thing today too, as well, of just the idea of having a gun in your home, you know. And I was thinking of comparing that to vaccinations, where it's like having a vaccination, you know, where you get a shot and there's something that's going to protect you from an invader of some disease or whatever. But I guess vaccinations is a bad angle to think about that. But just like catching a cold, if you don't wash your hands, you know, and you stick your hand in your mouth and you don't wash your hands or have good hygiene, you can get sick. Well, it's just the same of having a gun in your home, and it's all cellular based. It's kind of like as above, so below angle of your cells are victim to viruses based on your immune system, based on how well protected you are on your diet and exercise and health. The same as if you're in your home is a cell that should be protected by, if someone wants to beat down the door and try to fight their way in and take it over, then you've got a firearm in the closet, you know. I don't know.
Oh no, I totally agree.
As above, so below, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go out and start shooting people. I have no reason to harm anyone. I haven't been in a fight since high school, you know. And those, I didn't start those. I was defending myself. What's that?
I can't say that at all.
Well, and I'm not saying, I'm not bragging or anything. It's just the truth of.
No, you're lucky. No,
I know. And it's funny because I lived in East Tennessee and got in like 3 fights in high school. And then I moved to Harlem, New York City, and I lived in LA and I lived in Nashville and lived in some shady parts of the country, inner city, like crazy stuff. I bought a van in Compton, you know. I drove there and the lady gave me advice. She's like, hey, don't go left down here. You should go right because you'll probably get, you know, rushed if you go that way. I'm like, all right. So I went the other way, never had any trouble. Hadn't been in a fight since high school, man. And I lived in the places that my hometown would tell me that if you went there, you'd be like destroyed, you know. But the only place I got destroyed was in my hometown in BF nowhere in East Tennessee, or fights, you know. It's that weird dilemma of what they tell you is wrong or untrue. You have to just look on your own and have some sort of moral compass. And I think that's what's been destroyed. Above all, whatever people's spiritual beliefs are, whatever their you know, religious affiliation is, I can respect that as long as it doesn't involve them coming to my door, beating down my door, demanding that I play with the toy that they like to play with, and I should too.
Yeah, I find difficulty in that also, because if they come to my door, they're going to find out that I just won't talk to them.
There you go.
I'm not going to talk to them. I have no reason to talk to them. I speak my mind, and I'm allowed to do that as an American citizen. So they don't have the right to come to my door and ask me about it.
And it's that identification I think we've lost, because used to, I feel like people would go to arms because they don't want to see anything bad happen to their neighbors and certainly their own family. Now it's an idea where it's just like there's this mystical idea, but we don't even know our neighbors anymore.
Oh no, I know.
I mean,
I make it a point of knowing my neighbors everywhere I've lived.
And that's something I've always done as well, and that's what makes us strange creatures in this time. Because I mean, I've been in inner cities, and it's like, oh, who's the old guy by the can? And it's like, I don't know. And I go talk to him. It's like, I lived here 20 years. It's like, what? It's like, just the traveling thing is discerning. It's discouraging just how people aren't connecting.
All of my immediate neighbors, who they are and where they're from, and those are my immediate neighbors. You know, I've got a fire chief that lives right down the street. I've got a Hawaiian family that lives behind me. The people across the street have lived here forever. It was their parents' house, and the people that lived a couple houses down, they they just moved, but the father there was a teacher of my wife's, and I mean, I know all my neighbors, and they don't. My mother-in-law and Brandy, they don't know the neighbors, but I do. And they've lived here their whole life. I mean, they've lived here for 30 or 25 years. 25 years they've lived in this house. And
that brings up a great point of just situational awareness.
right.
And that can only, situational awareness only exists in the physical point of point of where you are now, situational awareness. Now, if I turn on the computer and something terrible shoots over it and it shocks me, okay, that's one thing. But if I'm in my backyard and I get rushed by a gang, that's another thing, you know.
If I get rushed by a gang, they're probably not going to be happy with the machete.
Exactly. And that's what I see has been kind of programmed for us not to be aware of situational awareness, because what does everyone do where they're in a place where they should be aware of situational awareness? They're staring at a screen.
Not to mention they carry concealed.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
The great thing is I'm in an open carry state, so I can just, you know.
So lucky. I would love this to be an open carry state, but it's not.
Well, Oregon is open carry as far as I can't conceal, but I can open carry, and I prefer that because it's just like, you know. But again, where I live, it's like, I mean, frankly, I mean, I've got country stores 2 miles either way up the road, and I mean, I can walk in there with a 45 on my hip, and people, you know, they don't even blink. So
yeah, exactly. Well, here, I don't know what the deal is. Like, we live in the South, and I think this should be a pretty open place for open carry. You know, I mean, honestly. But if people are more safe with me hiding my gun, I'm fine with that. I'm absolutely fine with that.
Yeah.
And during the day, sometimes I don't carry it during the day. You know what I mean? It's daylight. But if we go out at night, I'm always carrying. I don't have a permit. I don't have a license. My weapon is registered, but
well, I mean, it's kind of like, I look at it as
I'm not paying for a license or a permit to carry. That's my right.
Yeah. It's kind of like, do I have to have a license to have a bandsaw or a chainsaw or a circular saw? No.
No.
Well, those are freaking dangerous tools.
I can carry a machete down the street, no problem, on my back, open.
Yeah.
And people might look at me funny, but it's not illegal.
Exactly.
I bet that's way more dangerous than that gun, because the gun only holds 5 shots, and well, that machete will do a lot more damage than that.
Well, again, and that's the funny thing about the stats on that is like gun-free zones or murder zones. I mean, it's just like free kill shot zones, and I'll never go along with. I feel more comfortable because I grew up in that environment in East Tennessee. You know,
where everyone has a gun.
I mean, I had a 22 in my closet since I was like 9. I was taught to shoot it when I was 8, and my grandfather gave it to me. He's like, here, here's your gun now, and you're going to keep it. And I had the rounds in the closet too. Did I go out and shoot anything? No, because I was instructed and taught that this is a dangerous tool. I was taught about it. But the problem is that the gun, I do have an issue with gun porn, like this gun glorification of like a gun's going to make it all better, and we're going to just, you know, I don't like you, I'm going to kill you. Of course I have an issue with that, but I was raised in a very different environment than that.
Well, like you said, I'll be 41 next Sunday. And
oh, dude, you're 75, baby.
Yeah.
I am too, man. We're the same year. We were Wood Rabbit.
Yeah, Wood Rabbit.
Chinese calendar. Woohoo!
I know, right?
I'm gonna be 41 in May.
Hardly anyone knows that. Do you know that?
When we both do, because we're that same weird mental insatiable curiosity is the wood rabbit. Everyone I've ever met from the wood rabbit year is insatiable curiosity. We will dig into every topic we have for hours.
Chinese astrology is dead on.
I know, man.
Dead on.
I do feel lucky in having this experience as long as I had, with the choices I have made and the danger that I put myself in. I can say, yeah, the only thing that could have made it out of that is a rabbit, because throwing yourself in the into the fire, you know? Hello? If you can hear me, I cannot hear you.